Amidst, you're now taking a live look at the White House, featuring, you see that right there? Yes, the U.S. flag front and center after President Trump had 2 new flagpoles installed yesterday on the north and south lawns. This one of many updates the president has made to the White House in his second term. Now to a Fox 5 News alert. Israel was hit by a new wave of missiles out of Iran today, with a major hospital in the south sustaining extensive damage. This as President Trump continues to review attack plans for Iran, but is holding off to see whether they will step back from its nuclear program. Joining us now to discuss this and so much more is our guy is back, Timothy Allen Simon, political strategist back here on the LiveZone. Always good to see you, Timothy.
Good to see you, Guy. Happy Juneteenth to you.
And a happy Juneteenth to you as well. Let's start with the conflict between Israel and Iran. We now know that, as you just heard me make mention, President Trump reviewing attack plans, but yet again holding off at this very moment to see if they stop their nuclear program. What do you think the president's next move will be?
I think the president is either going to have to try to initiate diplomatic talks, which he has said he has been contacted by Iran, or he'll lean with Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and utilize the Buster bomb to attempt to take out the nuclear facility in Fordow, Iran. This is a long-standing contentious relationship between the United States and Iran, going back to the Islamic Revolution of 1978. If you go back even further to 1953, the United States was part of overthrowing Mohammad Mossadegh, who was the prime minister or president of Iran. When the Ayatollah Khomeini came into power, one of the first things he did was ended diplomatic relationships with Israel and South Africa. So this is a long, contentious history, and where it's now coming to a head because the International Atomic Agency has determined that Iran has continued to enrich uranium near weapons grades level. I should point out, as I said last time, Guy, there was a nuclear deal that President Barack Obama and other nations, a coalition of nations, had established with Iran on this issue. It was torn up by President Trump, and here we are.
Interesting. We'll get more on the conflict yet again underway in the Middle East at 12:15 with our foreign policy expert. That coming up yet again at 12:15. Back here in the States, we know that President Trump slamming the Federal Reserve, even suggesting, well, Timothy, you probably heard this, that he'll take over as head of the central bank after the latest decision not to cut interest rates. The Fed decided to keep borrowing costs at current levels, citing inflation forecasts and a growing economy. What do you think is going to happen with this, Timothy?
And I'm having some audio challenges here, but as President Trump pointed out, the European Union and other nations have reduced or lowered their interest rates multiple times since coming out of the pandemic. And it appears that Jerome Powell, his appointee, by the way, feels that to do so at this time would stimulate inflation in the United States, something that many would say was the reason why Kamala Harris, and of course, following Joe Biden, lost the election. So I think you have a difference of views. They have not gotten along for a period of time. The president has threatened to fire Jerome Powell, and now, as you've said, he's taken it a step higher, saying that he may actually take over the Fed. I'm sure that will be fought in court, but this is what he has stated to the public.
Yeah, obviously the two not, as we say, getting along the way perhaps many would expect them to be doing. The State Department now resumed the application process for foreign student visas, but, well, all applicants must unlock their social media accounts for government review. That department saying it will be on the lookout for posts and messages which could be considered hostile to the U.S. What are you thinking about this?
Well, I sit on a college trustee board at the University of San Francisco, and many small universities and even large ones are dependent upon foreign students who pay full tuition, where over 70% are domestic students, at least in our case, require some level of financial aid or assistance. This is delving into First Amendment, but I can't say that there's a right of privacy issue here, because if you posted your political views on social media, hence they are for public review. Again, I think this will be challenged in court by civil libertarians, and the due process and equal protection is entitled to all persons, not just citizens. So these type of actions are ripe for litigation.
All right, we'll move on to a move by President Trump that's ruffling a lot of feathers. We know that the president has now decided to end suicide in crisis hotlines for LGBTQ plus youth. As of July 17th, callers to 988, that's the National Suicide in Crisis Lifeline, will no longer have the option to speak with a counselor specifically trained to handle LGBTQ issues. Your response to this, Timothy?
This is part of a larger policy or effort of the Trump administration to remove the LGBT community of having a special class status under the Constitution, which meaning they require like racial minorities or gender require a more of a strict scrutiny analysis in terms of this community's equal protection of the law. But the administration has also said that it doesn't mean that an LGBTQ person under mental health challenges cannot call the hotline. They just no longer have a special line for the LGBTQ or queer community. Again, this is to be seen. This is part of a larger program that is part of the culture war, to be honest, under the Trump administration. But it is also an issue that he ran on to be president, and he's following through on his campaign promises in this particular area.
Well, in this particular area, yet again, it has ruffled a lot of feathers, specifically those sitting on the left. Speaking of those on the left, well, that means you got those on the right. In this case, neither the Republican nor Democratic Party has consolidated a majority of the public behind its approach, with more than 4 in 10 now saying that neither party can get things done or has strong leadership. Seems like a lot of Americans aren't happy, Timothy.
Yes, the divide that has even moved into political violence, as we know, really stagnates this country's ability to put forth initiatives where we need bipartisan cooperation. Mind you, as you know, being in the Capitol, there are bills passed every day coming out of Congress, sometimes even bipartisan. But the fact remains the larger issues that need to be addressed by this country are being affected by our lack of bipartisanism. Hence, both parties are continuing to have lower approval ratings based on a number of polls. I think that the new leadership and the midterms will probably have an impact on this situation that we are in as a country, but we still continue to operate every day. So I think that's the other point to be made, that the federal government continues to operate. We are just operating in a very contentious fashion.
All right, Timothy. Well, as you acknowledged, today is a special day. Yes, it is Juneteenth, a day in which all slaves discovered they were free. However, it comes as the Trump administration's pushback on DEI initiatives. Your response to that?
Well, you know, I was black long before DE&I, and you may try to suppress DE&I, but you cannot deny the history of slavery, 254 years that this country engaged in chattel slavery, the last country to abolish slavery. And yes, thanks to President Joe Biden and Congress, Juneteenth is a holiday that is celebrated nationally. It should be celebrated globally because it put an end to slavery, even though we went into what some called sharecropper status that had much similarities to slavery. But it's when this nation, after a war that had the highest number of casualties in this nation's history, decided that slavery must come to an end. And at a time when much of our history is attempted to being erased by the federal government, it's very important that all people, all races, celebrate the end of slavery by way of Juneteenth. And it is just, it's heartwarming, Guy, to hear you talk about this holiday as well as Fox 5.
Yeah. Yet again, we are awaiting a White House press conference that's set to get underway beginning at 1 p.m. I'm curious, Timothy, I got about 40 seconds left. Do you think the White House will acknowledge it in any way, form, or fashion?
Oh, that's to be seen. You know, President Trump did have a Black History celebration in the White House. The White House does whatever President Trump decides to do, as he has said, at that time. So there could be an acknowledgement. It could be not. I'm sure this is a contentious issue in MAGA, as well as the more traditional Republicans. But To be seen. I try not to predict what President Trump will do.
Well said. Yet again, Timothy Allen Simon, political strategist, joining us on the Live Zone. Always good to see you, sir.
Thank you, Guy.